So I've had quite a crazy week. I've been thinking a lot about how people form opinions. And it occurred to me that it all comes down to mental energy. You see, when we are children, we like to live in the moment. We like to have fun. We don't like to do schoolwork or anything that requires a great deal of mental energy. We do our schoolwork because we have to, or forced to. But many of us didn't care to do anything else work-related, especially mental work, as children. Now, as we get older, for some of us, this changes. Some of us find a new yearning, a thirst for a greater understanding of all things. And these people I would like to call, I guess you could call them intellectuals. Not everyone is wired this way, people. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, there are people out there who, even as adults, there are many who never develop this yearning for greater understanding. And the Jehovah's Witnesses are people that I would put in that category, absolutely. You may be thinking, well, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they study, they read their publications, they read certain verses from the Bible, they read daily. They've got the daily text, and they ponder on the things written. But see, it really doesn't take a great deal when you think about it, because most of the work Jehovah's Witnesses may have had to do mentally is already done for them. Jehovah's Witnesses never have to actually decide what they believe. They never have to form an opinion on anything. And I think that that's part of the draw of the Jehovah's Witness organization, is the fact that there's very little mental energy required, and yet you can have an opinion that's widely accepted among your peers in the organization anyway, and celebrated. And this is not just a religion we're talking about. This is a political stance. This is how to raise your children. Many of the controversial issues that mankind, all of us, have to decide for ourselves based on our experience and our research is already done for them. They never have to put forth that mental energy to decide for themselves what they think about all things. It's all on the watchtower. We all know, I think most of the people that watch my channel by now has decided that trusting one source for information, especially when you're going to base your beliefs on that information, is a really terrible idea. But those of you who agree with that statement, if you have left the Jehovah's Witness organization, there's a little something more I'd like to add to this discussion. And something I'd like to say to each and every one of you personally. When I came out of the organization, I still relied heavily on some of the so-called truths that I learned from the organization. I had already formed opinions based on their doctrines about Christianity, paganism, and all sorts of other fun topics of the world. Government, etc., etc., politics. I have bad news for you leaving the Jehovah's Witness organization, and that is, you are now charged with the mission of reevaluating everything that you relied on as a Jehovah's Witness. Every belief, every opinion that you've ever had. Now that you realize you can't trust the organization for those beliefs, for those opinions, at some point you must realize, friends, that you have to go back and reevaluate every single stance you've taken throughout your journey, throughout your experience. Because guess what? A lot of those stances, a lot of those opinions are not based on actual fact. They're biased ways of thinking that were developed in your heart and mind by the Jehovah's Witness organization and your friends and family within that cult. I learned very quickly after leaving that in the outside world, you can't just throw out you can't just put these ideas out there and expect everybody to agree like they did in the organization. I found out very quickly that a lot of my ideas were just flat out wrong and had no basis in the real world. I was a part of a community for a radio show. It was a really awesome sort of podcast type deal where they talked about all kinds of topics. All the kinds of topics that I never had to explore as a Jehovah's Witness because my mind had already been made up. They talked about politics, religion. They talked about conspiracies, aliens, UFOs, ghosts, demons, science. Just a wide range of topics. And I realized that I had a thirst for a greater understanding on all these things because I never actually put forth the mental energy to discover what it all meant for myself. And that's what I did. And they had a forum for the community that was involved with this radio show. And I started to participate. Really, the only subject that I was an expert of at that time was the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's all I ever knew. It's all I ever studied was their literature. So at least in that way I could participate. I could talk about all the things that I was taught and how messed up it was, how wrong they were, and all the crazy ideas that Russell and Rutherford and all his cronies came up with. But then I tried to take part in other discussions, like politics and science. And in this group, I was taught a very valuable lesson. And this is the message that I have for all people who leave the Jehovah's Witness organization, or actually all people in general. You cannot take part in a discussion. You cannot put out an opinion without first doing the research, actually reading up on the subjects that you are putting your opinion out there on. You cannot put out your opinion without doing the work, without researching it, and expect people to applaud you and agree with you. The reality is, and that's exactly what I did. There was a discussion about evolution. And at the time, I had not done any research on science whatsoever. I had not delved into the evidence that we have supporting scientific issues whatsoever. And I put out an idea. I had a theory about something to do with at what point we became intelligent as a species. And it was an idea that I thought made sense, but it was completely unfounded by any type of evidence whatsoever. And there's this guy that I know. He's a friend of mine, and ever since this happened, he's been a dear friend to me. He handed me my ass. He posted links, he showed pictures and articles, and he just me with information, facts that showed my idea, as interesting as it was, as much as fun as it was to believe. It had no basis in the real world. It had no evidence. And after that, something changed inside me. I learned the valuable lesson, the one that I am stressing to each and every one of you, is that you cannot put an opinion out there without first doing the research. I mean, you can, and people do all the time. I see it, and it drives me crazy. But what happens is you're setting yourself up for a very hard slap in the face. And you're making yourself look extremely infantile, extremely childish. You're that kid in school who only does his schoolwork because he has to. And then he goes about his life living in the moment, never pondering or never studying anything. Guys, I'm not telling you that you have to do a bunch of extracurricular study here in order to be a good person. But if you want to have a debate, if you want to try and join a discussion on very complicated matters such as religion, politics, science, you gotta do the reading first. I'm sorry. You just have to do the reading first. Otherwise, you're no better than the Jehovah's Witnesses, who have formed a belief without doing any of the work themselves. I'm out here trying to get some sun today, trying to recharge my batteries, because quite honestly, lately, my mental energy has been overwhelmingly drained. You know, previously it didn't take much to recharge my mental energy. 30-minute break, meditating, sitting out in the sun, listening to music, doing whatever. That was enough. But then it became like an hour, 2 hours. Sometimes it'd take me a whole day to replenish my mental energy and be able to keep writing, making videos, debating people on the internet, and talking about the things that I'm passionate about. Now it's to the point where I felt like my mental energy has been drained for an entire week, and I'm really not sure what to do about it, because nothing has really been working this week. Probably has something to do. I had a leg injury this week that's kept me from doing my cardio. I like to run at least once a week. Like, I'll run a mile at least once a week, sometimes 2-3 times a week. And that does wonders for my brain. And I haven't been able to do that this week because I had a leg injury. And I'm really hoping that once my leg heals up that I can get back to it. But guys, part of the problem with me, what really drains my energy more than anything else, my mental focus and my brain power, is when I've researched something quite heavily and I put it out there, and all these people jump on spouting out their opinion on the subject while admitting that they've not actually done the research, they've not actually done the reading. you are just holding back the argument. You are just hindering the conversation when you do that. The conversation can't move forward with all these people who distract from the message because they have an idea or an opinion that is not backed up by evidence, is not backed up with actual research. This weighs on my soul more than anything else. This is the reason why we have so many problems in the world, people. It all comes back to this: people forming ideas and opinions without any proper foundation. So I guess I just really wanted to get this out there to everyone, and in hopes that at least the people who watch my videos will in the future try their very hardest to put forth a little mental energy, do some research, study up on what it is you're about to say, on whether it be on my YouTube videos, whether it be on Facebook or in an email, just anything. In dealing with me, I would appreciate it if you just did a little digging first, instead of arguing out of ignorance. Alright. Fateful Slave, thanks a lot, guys.